Okay, well, this is like the fourth time I've tried to record this video. Um, you know, if someone is going to claim that the self has fallen away, and you have friends and family that are like, sure, Cat, the self has fallen away. If the self has fallen away, who the heck am I looking? Who is this? And who am I talking to? Yeah, and who's the one eating or whatever? Yeah, I totally get it. I mean, the self needs to be defined so that there's some understanding of how the self can fall away, what is the self, and blah blah blah. Anyway, all of this, and I have to say I made a bunch of notes, and I was trying to do these videos by following the notes, and then I decided to change the order of the note. Oh my gosh, it's too confusing. I'm going to try to wing it like I always do. So what I'm trying to express here is from my own experience, um, as well as having that experience confirmed or affirmed by the works of Bernadette Roberts, um, who wrote on the no self experience, the falling away of self, what is self, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I've learned a lot from her, but it's also confirmed in my own experience. And it's really difficult, I would say, to like you can't recognize this until the absence of the self, right? So maybe a lot of this may not resonate. Yeah, I don't know, but this I'll try to do the best I can to describe what is the self. Now, I think we have to start at the beginning. Like, what creates the self? The self would be the I maker, right? It is just that individual spark of God that's coming down to be a reflection or an image of God and to create into the world. It's just the I maker. And that original I maker is held within the causal body. The causal body is the cause and the holder of that individual spark of God consciousness that you are, that spark of light. And that causal body is called the super ego or your higher self. So, yes, already I'm saying this word ego, which is like, oh my God, I don't know what ego means. It's such a confusing word, but what's come to me, maybe it will make more sense. So, really, the ego is just the I maker, giving you an I sense. An ego is a vehicle, the crater of the I. Okay, so we have the causal body, also known as the higher self, which which is super ego. It's the super I. And that super ego is held in the higher mental planes. So in that world, the mental aspect is unified. There is a unified experience of life. But now that causal body wishes to incarnate into a physical body. I know, where am I going with this? I'm just wanting to describe the self, but it will all make sense. It wants to incarnate into physical form. So what happens is the causal body, this superego, wants to extend itself, its energetic thread, the silver cord, and create physical form. And that extension of, or that thread, is called the soul or the etheric body. The etheric or your subtle body, your light body, comes down and into form, and it's what creates your template for the physical body. And in there it includes the blueprints, obviously, of ancestral and what was the words that came to me? Sorry, it was pretty good words. Um, and it creates, it holds that stream, that soul, that etheric blueprints that creates the body through the DNA, which is holder of ancestral wounds and your out of harmony dispositions of past lifetimes or your vasanas or samskaras, right? Okay, so that's an etheric body that comes down, creates the physical body. Okay, where am I going with this? This is part of the self. It's part of the unconscious self, which we'll get to. I'm just trying, and this that energetic thread that comes down and creates the physical body, which also creates the physical brain. The super ego is the super I, unified field, works at a higher um, consciousness level, comes down, creates a brain that is separate, that we have a separated brain. We have a left brain and a right brain. And this creates the ego, the lower ego in man, which is an I maker, which creates the subject object relationship in the world, which creates it's a me, and there's everything out there. Oh my goodness, my cat wants in. I think I'm gonna make him wait. So now let's talk about the brain and what it produces. And this is where you're probably going to think I'm crazy, but I feel like I'm kind of right. Anyway, so in the physical form and a separated brain, we this our brain just you're going to think I'm crazy, does create consciousness. It creates consciousness of the self. And now you're like thinking I'm crazy because even though the scientific community, the spiritual community says this, the scientific community is completely wrong, that the brain does not create consciousness, that consciousness was before creation of the physical form. Yes, that is true. Both things are true. We have a self. If the self can fall away, it is not permanent. So that means that there is a bigger self. Okay, we get that. So in this case, the brain creates a self that can fall away. Oh, I've just lost my train of thought. Sorry. Anyway, let me keep going. So I think too, both science and spirituality are correct. And they don't know this because they don't haven't, there's not enough experience or exposure or talking about the falling away of self, that there are two levels of consciousness, one produced by the brain that creates a false me, I, and a false reality. And but that when that goes away, either through unconsciousness or whatever, the body, which is always tapped into the universal, always the real self consciousness is still there, right? So both things are true in my humble opinion. Anyway, so the self is generated, this self, that this thing that we want to go away eventually needs to fall away, is generated by the brain. So we have two halves of the brain. Of course, we know this. We have um, two halves of the brain, we have consciousness. So one aspect of the brain is reflective, the other is reflective. One aspect looks outwards, one aspect looks inwards. Um, the left, which controls the right side, the left is the reflective, outward looking, relational, comparing, analyzing. It is our conscious self. We are aware that we are aware, right? This is our intellect. Um, and this is what comprises of our mental body. Okay. The right side is our reflexive. It's our inner looking. It is our unconscious field of self. It is the responding to the universe. It is more feminine. The other side is obviously more masculine. And this is what makes up our emotional body. So we have this energetic field of the mental body, the emotional body, which is the container of the conscious self, the unconscious self, as well as the aspects of the unconscious self that was brought in from the etheric or soul, that is, that unconscious parts that are embedded in our DNA that came in from the higher ego. Okay. So within this lower self, we have this ego that is built from a separated brain, but it's just the eye maker. Let me see here. Let me check my notes and make sure. um, and this so the ego in itself is not bad. It is just the holder of the eye. But unfortunately, with that separated brain, it has an outward movement and a reflexive movement. And the way we've been conditioned on this planet at this particular time, um, has been very mental, outward looking, conditioned to the eye has been conditioned to uh, do things in accordance to what the collective says, just outward confirmation of who am I? I got to look to the outward to who I am. People are going to tell me who I am, and I'm going to do things based on comparison, blah, 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 without checking with the inner world, right? So this aspect of the ego is what gets the bad rap. It's all the false identities that we take on. I mean, some of this is not bad, but we take on a whole world of comparing ourselves and taking on identities and projections from other people, our parents, the collective. So this is the part of the ego that gets a bad rap. And this is the part of the ego that through the spiritual journey, we begin to dissolve. Okay, this is the part of the self, or it's actually not the self, it's the ego that needs to be dissolved or cleaned up so that it works in tandem with the other reflexive side of inner checking, right? Okay. So the ego as a word gets a bad rap, but the ego is not bad. And here's what I got. Let me see here. Ego makes the me. And in this outward looking me, it's like me, I'm the center of the universe. I'm the doer here. I'm the authority. Me. I take everything personally. Oh my God, I'm the victim, right? This is all the part of the ego that gets a bad rap. And because of this separated brain, this ego has created a sense of separation. And indeed, because we have this energetic self generated by this brain, we actually feel a sense of separation, right? Because of this energetic field. We bump up against somebody else's field, and we know that that's not me, right? So it generates a sense of separation, which is not a bad thing. Okay, but it also gives us a sense of I am. It creates this feeling of, oh, this is my beingness. And remember, I said in the other video that I am is not a unified thing. It's still a me it's still a subject and an object. I am this, I am that. Um, yeah, this is a before awakening kind of ego part. Let's see. Um, I'm not this, I'm this. So the bad part of the ego, if we look at the word ego, this just came to me today. I know it's so stupid, but it's that aspect of our brain that goes out, doesn't check inwards after it goes out and does a little discovery and adventure out into the world. It doesn't come back and check the reflexive aspect, our spiritual aspect, our right side of the brain, right side of the brain. Um, and I call it exiting our God origin, EGO, which is so ridiculous, I know, but it, it it doesn't check with our inner truth. Is this in harmony with God consciousness or source? Okay, so it's like exiting God's origin. It's like it's in separation mode. Okay. Um, I think I'm gonna, okay. So this, let's see, did I? Oh, so the words, so you know how I love looking up the numbers of the words and just the letters of ego, E, G, and O, the letters are 5, 3, and 6. And what the light, what ego really means, not a bad thing, is that it's the light of consciousness, the number 5, E, coming down into physical form in man, 3, or the G, to receive and express godly insights into the physical plane, 6, EGO. In other words, to make God manifest. That's what the ego is. But sometimes the ego, in its separated form, goes outwards and doesn't check its inner God source. Anyway, this whole conglomeration of the mental body, the emotional body, the psyche of the ego, the subject object relationship, this whole toroidal type energy, or the Ouroboros of the self, which is the outward looking, the outward movement, the inner movement, the outward, creates, a tangible, measurable, palpable field of energy that makes up you, the self. Okay, that's what we call the self. And of course, I don't know if I need to put up an image there, but you get it. It's your energetic field. Okay, this is going to be part one of the self because there's more to it. What do we discover within the self? What is happening within the self? Okay, I hope that makes sense. I know that's a very long explanation. Um, but it's all to say that we can to kind of prove to you or show to you that how it feels when the self falls away and that you can live without this self. Okay, all for now. Stop recording.